For those who are new, hi, I'm Lily. I am a travel journalist, have been for the past 15 years, and here on my channel, I talk about ethical travel, conscious move abroad, and we also have a podcast here where we discuss hot topics on tourism, travel, identity, geopolitics, and some things you don't hear in mainstream media and different perspectives, and that's definitely resonated. So thank you for being here. I also want to shout out a new member. Hello, Janelle. I hope I'm saying your name right. Janelle Gayette. She signed up for my YouTube membership at the insider level. So thank you. And you will be getting your early access to new videos before everybody else, including some shout outs and photos and status updates that I have that will be only for subscribers. All right, let's get into it. We've grown a lot here, and I'm really happy about that. Restarted my channel a year ago. I really didn't know what it was going to be like or who would show up. But to be honest, I've been in this business for so long, in the media and in travel media particularly, and I really just wanted a space where I could talk about the issues that I see and talk honestly about them and give honest advice, because the travel space in particular is so layered, complicated, but also very obscure and surface. And I got tired of the other platforms, to be honest. Like, Instagram is so surface. A lot of the travel content you see there is just not telling you the full truth, or the reach isn't the same. At least it wasn't for me. Same for the other social media platforms like Facebook, that suddenly just wasn't showing your stuff to anybody. And I heard that YouTube was kind of shifting last year, and so I signed up for this course. And then I had been on YouTube before, but I don't think I really had a strategy, you know? But last year I decided, you know what, let me restart my YouTube. Now's a great time, with everyone kind of shifting everywhere, moving abroad, etc. Let me share what I know, because I know a lot over 15 years of being in this industry, the good, the bad, and all of that. And so I also wanted a side income, and YouTube has allowed me to have that. It's not like something I can depend on, but at least it's growing, and it's been helpful. And yeah, so I got monetized within like 6 weeks. But what I wanted to say is that what I didn't expect, I knew I was going to talk about ethical travel, and that's what most people are here for some honesty about travel and move abroad. But I didn't know the move abroad part would be so popular. Like, I knew that if people were moving abroad a lot, etc., but it wasn't going to be a big part of my channel. And then one day, I was talking with my brother, and he lives in Canada. And we were talking about this whole thing of like how Americans are moving all over the place now. People are leaving. And he said, what would be really a great idea right now is if you talk about how you returned full-time to the US, after being a travel journalist in the Caribbean. And I was like, I've been thinking about doing that just to share like my perspective, which, might be helpful to some people. And when I did that video, it just went bananas. I mean, I really wasn't expecting it. And so you can see it. It's in my YouTube channel, Why I Returned to the United States After 15 Years Abroad. And I was just being honest. I didn't really have it wasn't like super scripted or anything. I just told it my truth, and gave some advice, and it just went bananas. And I realized that, actually, I have a lot of live abroad experience, good and bad. I should share that, and maybe it will help other people make better decisions. Because I see a lot of people sort of jumping on the train of, I'm leaving, and it's fine if you want to leave, but I want to go to this country or that country, and they're just going where everyone else is going without really thinking whether it's a fit for them, or they're going without thinking through their financial situation, the health situation, etc. So that's how the whole, what I call conscious move abroad, ethical move abroad, came about on my channel and has resonated with a lot of you. And so I really would love to hear your thoughts on, how you'd like that part of the channel to move forward. I've done some interviews lately. The Rwanda one. Before that, I did one of an American who moved to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. But if you'd like to see more of those, let me know. And happy to keep telling you or giving you thoughts on how to move abroad, in a conscious way that benefits you, but also benefits people that are in the destination that you're moving to. And I think that's also why my 8 places not to move abroad really resonated. That one also went kind of crazy. All sorts of comments, people who understood, which was great. And then there was a lot of also wanting to pass the buck, meaning like, well, it's the local landlords that are raising prices. I'm not the one contributing to gentrification, and really just not understanding the dynamics. And I've invited somebody, an expert in gentrification and live abroad, to come on my channel and explain to us exactly what's happening. But it's summer, so it's still summer. Faculty. This is a faculty member at a university, and they don't, university professors, they don't answer you when they're off during the summer. So I gotta wait for the fall. But that's coming so that we can all understand our role better. What else? If you're here, say hi and let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know if you're in the US or if you're outside the US. Oh, thank you. Tech Janitor says, I truly appreciate your life experiences. Thank you. I'm here to share. I really just want to bring more value and share what I know. So if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. If you're not here in the live stream and you're watching it afterwards, please do also leave comments. And if there are any specific countries, places that you want to know about or that you've heard of and want to know more and would like me to bring on a guest, let me know. If you have ideas for the podcast topics, I'm also open to that. I have a lot in the works. I'll get to that in a second. So yeah, I think that the reason we've grown here and what it tells me, and from what I can tell, is that we are all really craving honest perspectives. It's not just about the glossy part of move abroad or traveling abroad, even on vacation. It's really about the realities and also the geopolitical shifts. There's a lot happening around the world that is going to impact like even our decisions as to where we're going and not going. Hello, Loretta. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here. This is so nice. Yay. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you have any particular videos that you've loved all this time, let me know also. So I was saying that, let me know also what you thought of the Rwanda video. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Rwanda is a place that gets a lot of positive coverage for the way that they've managed to build the country. The leadership obviously knows what they're doing with the infrastructure, the social programs and all of that. But it was interesting to hear from someone who's coming in from abroad, from the United States, and how they had difficulty integrating in the community and how the social aspect wasn't there. And she was very much a social butterfly. So I thought that was very interesting, of things that you have to consider, because it's not just about like, okay, you get great healthcare and you get lower rent compared to the United States, perhaps, but then what's the social aspect like? What's the social life? Because that's like your day to day, and you want to be in a place where you're going to feel happy, So I thought that was really illuminating. What else was I going to say? Yes, in recent updates, I want to share some of the recent newsy stuff that I've seen about places. For example, the Dominican Republic, which is a place that I've done videos on before, as you can see in my playlists, about living in a DR or visiting a DR, or even like social issues in a DR that you should know about. The DR, early August, there was a story that they're adding 15,000 hotel rooms in the next 3 years. That's like a near 20% increase. and it's luxury rooms. It's an investment of like close to 3 billion or more than $3 billion. So that kind of tells you where the DR is headed in terms of tourism and what they're aiming for. And I had mentioned this before in a previous video. Now, how should I say this? There are a lot of folks online who will tell you about moving to a place and almost advertise it, right? Advertise it, tell you should invest, this is a time to invest, et cetera, et cetera. And you should be very careful about jumping on that bandwagon without doing your own research. Because you know, when you take advice, you want to take advice from someone who is detached, independent from what's happening, right? So if this person is making commissions, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with real estate agents, we all need them at some point, but they have to be able to give you the pros and cons. If all they give you are pros, that's a red flag. Like you need to pause. Now, why do I say that? Because I love the Dominican Republic. In fact, my husband is from there. And I'm sure at some point we have family there. So at some point we'll probably invest as well and buy a place, but obviously because we have family ties. If you don't have family ties, of course you can still buy property. It's one of the best places where you can actually own the place outright when you buy it. And they give you breaks if you do it for tourism purposes. But there's a lot of systemic issues in the DR. And when it comes to infrastructure, even in the Punta Cana area, which is growing in luxury rooms, etc., the infrastructure is lagging. And those are things that you need to notice. How often are they upgrading the roads? How is the electricity infrastructure? What is the general sentiment in the country? What's the gap? What is the poverty gap, right? Those are all numbers that are out there. So you want to look at the bigger picture as opposed to just getting on the bandwagon of this exciting picture. Oh, the country's growing and this and that. Well, okay, but who's really going to benefit? Is it just the wealthy people who are buying stuff that are going to benefit, or is that wealth going to trickle to everyone else in the country? And it's most likely not. So you just have to like think about all of these different factors. And I hope that changes. I mean, I don't know, but that's not been my experience while I live there, and I'm not seeing that change. Okay, so other things I'm noticing: a couple of African countries are starting to bar foreigners from starting businesses in specific sectors. So one of those, and I'm going to open this so that I have the accurate stuff in front of me. One of them is Tanzania. So recently, I would say not even a month ago, Tanzania passed a law that bans foreigners from opening certain small businesses or running certain small businesses. I think about 15 of them, right? And and I want to say which ones they are. Okay, here we go. Yeah, 15 business sectors considered critical to the economic development of the country and that are traditionally owned by Tanzanians, and they're saying we want to save it for our own people, right? So things like even tourism, like if you want to be a tour guide, or if you're opening a museum or operating a museum, or if you're owning or managing micro small industries, buying crops directly from farms, etc. Like they have a whole list, and now foreigners cannot open a business in these sectors. That's like, I mean, the way the world is going, right? And so that's happening in Tanzania. It's also happening even more recently than that in Gabon, which is also in Africa, kind of central. And Gabon is taking the same approach. So I don't know, that to me signals it signals something. I don't know. It's like, it's becoming this it's like a pattern of like ongoing slightly anti-foreigner or like slightly protectionist policies. Hi, Tech Janitor. I'm wondering, how do you feel about these factors with ethical standards? Yeah. That's a really interesting question. I think those are two different things. I think that having ethical values as a traveler is still matters, is still important, because at the end of the day, it is about benefiting the local economy, right? Especially coming from a more powerful currency and coming from a major source market, because the United States is considered a major source market for tourism and travel. So wherever you go, you definitely, you want to think about your impact and benefiting local businesses. I'm all for it still. I think this other approach though tells a bigger story, and I'm going to dig into it because I think it has a lot to do also with some of the foreign investors that have come into the country, and instead of benefiting locals, they kind of keeping everything for themselves. You know what I mean? Like the larger part of the pie is not benefiting locals, and I think that's probably what they're trying to stop from happening. I think, and this is also my husband's perspective, that in Africa there's been a lot of Chinese investment, and they are in some cases even they're providing a lot of loans, and then when they default on the loans, when the government defaults on the loans, they take possession. And so that's been happening a lot, and locals are kind of left out of that whole picture. So I don't know if that's addressing China investments or something else, but I think that definitely speaks to a different issue. I don't think it changes us making better decisions when we travel to make sure that we are not harming locals. I think that when you put other people first and you go with humility, and you understand the inequality that exists, and you try not to harm locals, I think that's never going to backfire on you. I think it's always going to make your experience more richer, especially if you're moving there. But even if you're just visiting, I think that's always important. So yeah, it would be interesting to find out why these governments are doing this, and what the thinking is. And maybe that's actually, I think that could be a great topic for our podcast. Maybe I'll bring somebody on and actually tackle that question that you just put. Thank you for that, Tech Janitor. So what else? Yeah, right? Yeah, me too. Okay. So I had done a poll in the community page asking people, like, what is the one fear that you have about moving abroad that is still there even after you watch like a gazillion videos about moving abroad? Like you go on YouTube, you're watching all this stuff, it makes you feel great or whatever, and then you're like, I don't know. So most people said that it was the fear was returning home broke, or like going bankrupt or whatever. And I agree that finances is definitely everyone's top concern. So I want to talk about making money remotely in one of my future upcoming, like soon coming videos. I want to share a little bit about what I've done, and obviously it's not going to apply to everybody, but the general principles might apply. In other words, like, I personally think there's never been a better time to make money remotely than now. I mean, there's so many tools out there now that you could use. And I don't even mean just AI. I mean, which, that's a whole other conversation, but you could make money remotely in your industry if you're in one of those industries that you can do so, And for me, as a writer and as a travel journalist and creator, I have been able to make money remotely. In fact, I did that for 15 years. And so I'm going to break it down, like what I did exactly. And the irony is that I'm still, it's a learning process, and I have it down. But now that I'm back in the US, obviously the cost of living is like tripled for us. And I also, I agree with you. I'm sorry, I'm reading the comment here that you're afraid of hurting locals and want to blend in with them as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, I commend you for that, honestly. Thank you. I'm so glad to have you here. This channel is definitely for folks who care. There are a lot of people who don't. They know the issues in certain destinations, and they just don't care. It's all about their investments and whatnot, and people will do what they want to do. And I want to mention like the 8 places you should not move to video that I did. It wasn't even about like, oh, don't ever go or whatever. Like, I mean, obviously I'm recommending you don't, but if you do, hey, this is also happening. Like for me, it was just more about like critical thinking and mentioning things that like no one else is telling people who want to move abroad. Like, and there are a lot of considerations, and this is real. The tension is real right now in different places around the world, and it's not just about being, people think it's because we're Americans or whatever, but no, it's not that. It's the inequality that's been exacerbated since the pandemic. People are facing higher costs of living. They're facing, groceries are more expensive. Everything is more expensive. Rent is more expensive. And then imagine then losing the housing to wealthier foreigners who are escaping, whatever nightmare they think is happening in their country. And so it's like all of these things, and it's been happening since the pandemic. And then let's not even talk about the environment, right? So it's really more me kind of putting it out there, getting people to think about like there's a lot of other places that you can consider, and maybe that will be a future video. In fact, I'm hearing a lot about Uruguay, by the way, but anyways, I'll dig into that more in the future. But it is about blending in. And so even if you go to, say, Portugal, okay, but like pick somewhere else than Lisbon, go in the countryside, really blend in, really learn the culture, really learn the language, start learning now before you move, if that's where you want to be. That's really just the message that I wanted to get out there. And so thank you for saying that, that you care about how locals feel, because that's the message that's missing in the travel industry, because it just doesn't serve them. That's the truth. It doesn't serve them at all. And I became known in my work because I was being brutally honest. And I can post links in the comments to some of my past articles. But this is why I love YouTube, because I can share this and it's reaching more people, and I'm glad. And so we can all share ways that we blend in when we move abroad. Yeah, thank you. Hi, welcome, Linda. Thanks for tuning in from Barcelona. That's so exciting. And thank you. I say exciting because your perspective matters. I know there's been so much happening there. I've been following for years as a travel journalist, and I've written a lot about over tourism as well. So when I do videos like 8 places not to move, it's not something that somebody suggested that I just looked it up online, and that's crazy. That actually comes from years of research that I've done, talking to experts, talking to academics who study this in Europe, in Amsterdam also, which had similar issues with drunken tourism. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Linda. How are things there now in Barcelona? I'd love to hear, now that the summer is kind of wrapping up. I don't know if it's still problematic or what's happening with the short-term rentals and the crowds. And it's funny, like some people always say like, well, the over tourism protests only happened for a week in this specific area, and it's not the whole city. And then they'll go vacation there, and then they'll share their pictures and say, hey, everything's fine here. So it's like it's sending this, there's a lot of mixed messages. And then, okay, so last week I was at a conference for travel writers, travel journalists, etc. And somebody said, the world is not what you see in the news. Go out and experience it. And I was thinking, it's a lot more layered than that. Like, yes, there's a lot of fear mongering in the news. I agree. Don't believe everything you hear about places. Don't stereotype and go see for yourself. Absolutely. But at the same time, there is truth to what is happening with over-tourism and the overcrowding, and how places are being harmed because of many reasons, because of government policies that are not in place for them, because the government is not providing the housing they should be, because the government doesn't have regulations on short-term rentals, and they're letting basically wealthier folks, when I say wealthier, I mean from a more powerful currency, just move in and stay longer and take over the housing, and the landlords are raising the rent, and none of that is regulated. So yeah, some people don't see the duality. I agree that people don't believe on duality, and I think that's one of the problems we're facing now. It's like it's either or. That's not the case. It's not black and white. It's like it's more gray, especially in this space of travel. It's very gray, but at the same time, there are certain truths, and there's a chain. There's a whole chain of responsibility, and so yeah, I mean, locals have a role in this, but so do I. That's the message that I want to share here. On this channel. So where is everyone else tuning from? Yay, we've got Charleston. I'm so excited. This is so fun. This is the first time I'm doing it live. Maybe I'll do it once monthly. What do you guys think? And bring you more updates. We've got South Carolina. We've got Barcelona. Tech Janitor, I'm not sure where you are, but generally, yeah. Let me type something here. Yeah, I'm loving this. Clearly, I should have done this a long time ago. Oh, cool. You too. Wow. Awesome. South Carolina. Love it. I've never been, but I've heard a lot about Charleston. That's great. Maybe I'll get there soon. So yeah. So anyone have, oh, okay. Barcelona says, Linda in Barcelona says, summer's winding down and it's much quieter now because of the news. All true. It's a complicated topic here. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. This is so valuable. I love hearing your perspectives. Yeah, I agree. It is all true. It's been true for quite a while. Same with Venice, right? So I was in Venice last year because I wanted to see for myself. Hey, Loretta. Oh, you're in Somerville too? Wow. We've got a Somerville crew here. That's great. I love it. Awesome. Got some travelers there. Are you thinking of moving abroad? Any of you thinking of moving abroad? I'd love to know. In any case, yes, I was in Venice last year. Last year? Yeah, last year. And I wanted to see for myself, because I'd reported on the over-tourism there as well. And just the way that tourism completely changed the character of Venice, the center of Venice, St. Mark's. And there were crowds, but I went I think I went in May. So, there were good crowds, but not like crazy. And still I could see how it was. And I actually saw the place through the eyes of a really amazing activist there in Venice. Her NGO is called We Are Here Venice, Jane Damosto, and she took me around for a day. It was a Saturday. She walked me all around Venice and the different neighborhoods and explaining to me what tourism's been doing there, what cruise tourism is doing now. And I had lunch with her and her family. I mean, it was incredible. I probably got to see a more inner side perspective of Venice than anyone. And it wasn't even sightseeing. It was just getting to sit down with her and her family and having lunch and walking around. It was really awesome. Hey, Tech Janitor. So your wife and I have been planning to move for about 5 years. Incredible. Loretta, good to know. Yeah, wonderful. Sure. Solid truth. This is the place for that. I promise you. I am here to tell you the truth, all good and bad. Living abroad has a lot of advantages, obviously, and it changes you in ways that is just so enriching. But you definitely want to, especially if you're in your retirement phase, you want to pick a place that is more likely to work out for you in the long term. Because I moved when I was, in my 30s. Yeah. When I moved again as an adult, I was in my 30s. And so I still had kind of, about a decade to figure things out and start my career over. I was a lawyer before this, and I found my career abroad, but I also, I worked really hard for it. And I spent 10 plus years in it. And what I learned from that is that it's a lot deeper than most people talk about. So what I'm seeing now is a lot of people move abroad and then they make businesses out of it. And then they don't really tell you the downside. And I don't think that's doing a service for anyone. So, I don't want anybody to go abroad and then be miserable and then run out of money or just have something happen health wise, or that's just terrible. So why not tell people the truth about places? And so, because no place is perfect, no place is perfect. We know that. So it's okay to talk about it. Sorry, reading comments here. Things I've done in Korea and Germany. Okay, awesome. So you already traveled. Yeah. That's the plan. Exactly. I love it. Yeah, being part of the community wherever you go. That's wonderful. And to be honest with you, I find most places will welcome people with that kind of approach and mentality. I think you'll have less of a difficult time if you avoid destinations that are usually cities that are super crowded, or like Mexico is certainly one place I would not move. I mean, it's just too many. I think that's just saturated at this point. But yeah, I agree. Being part of the community. Yeah, I just saw a video on Uruguay and I'm completely intrigued. From what I understand, it's actually quite a stable economy. It's one of those lesser, under the radar kind of places for some reason, but it's come up with a new digital nomad. I think it's also not hard to have residency there, but that's something that I'm going to dig into for an upcoming video. Yeah, because I wanna do the flip side of here's places that you could move or that you should consider, because I can never make the decision for people, but I can at least give you the criteria and what I see is interesting. Panama. Yeah, I mean, Panama does have a solid American community. I wouldn't say it's saturated in the way that, say, Mexico is. I went to Panama City. I don't know the whole country very well, but I've been to Panama City for like 4 days. I was on assignment, and it struck me as a pretty okay place. I just don't. It's probably it has a very Caribbean side because of the history. Sorry, the history of the Panama Canal. I don't know how much folks know, but when I went there, I learned a lot about the Panama Canal. I had no idea that they had huge Caribbean community go there to help build the canal during those times. And they came from like Jamaica, Barbados, etc. And so there's a very solid Caribbean feel to it, and culture in the food, and it's really reflected in certain areas. And so that was really fascinating to me. In fact, my airport, the guy who picked me up at the airport was a Jamaican Panamanian. So yeah, I did love that part, but I don't know what it's like to live there, but I can certainly, there's plenty of American expats there. I wouldn't say it's saturated. I think it's worth looking into. I do know that recently they had some protests in Bocas del Toro for, I think I don't want to misspeak, but I think they were protests for a certain American company, a big American company that was hiring a lot of people, shut down or something like that. And so people were just left in a lurch, or there's stuff happening there. Like I would look into that. But generally, most people speak only good things about living in Panama, but I want to find somebody who can give me a balanced perspective. So I will do that. In fact, I'm going to write that down here in my notes. Thank you for that question. Really, really interesting. I do know there's a lot of interest in Panama. Let's see. So Panama is, what's interesting about Panama that I picked up while I was there is that even though they have incredible ecosystem, in terms of like the environment, like the nature areas, there's a lot to see and do, but they haven't grown in tourism like Costa Rica or like now Belize. And the reason is because Panama makes its money from the canal, right? So they make billions from the canal, and the government has never prioritized tourism properly. Like they just, it's like a side thing for them. So that could be a good thing, that could be a good thing, because as you know, over tourism is often very closely correlated with places being saturated and overpriced or overrated. Okay. Thanks, Loretta. Sure thing. Okay. This was so helpful. Thank you all. I could probably go on and on and chat with you guys. I want to make sure I didn't forget anything I wanted to tell you. Oh, yes. So Speaking of Asian countries, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely want to learn more about Asian countries or nations that I plan. Yeah, so yeah, there are. I'll let you know. I'll let you know there are because I really planning to do more coverage on the more ethical travel side of things and community oriented, but that's all I can say for now. Also, Belize is Belize. Yeah, I would think carefully about Belize, to be honest. As you know, I know it very well, and I have seen Belize transform hugely over the last 10 years. The first time I went was in 2010, 2011, and then from 2012 to 2016 or 17, I was there on a long-term basis doing my book and working out of there remotely. Sure, Loretta, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm so glad you were here. I'm happy that this information is helpful. I'm doing my best to provide more value ongoing. Packing up your life is very different from visiting on vacation. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's real. So we're here to be real, not sugarcoat anything. So yes, I will share more in the future. I definitely have that on my list. So thank you so much for being here. I forgot what I was saying. Yes. So to wrap up, I want to mention that and I realize that this may not apply to everybody. That's fine. But just FYI, because people were asking me about remote income and stuff like that, that will also be upcoming in future videos. I recently, just last week, launched my own conscious travel storyteller course. It's a live one, not online on your own, but live, led by me for 1 hour every week for 6 weeks. We meet and I basically guide you on how to turn your travel experiences abroad and your ethical travel experiences into stories that sell, into stories that really grow your influence and your voice and bring you income on your own platforms as well, which is also what I've done here on YouTube, but also in writing mostly. So if that's something that interests you, I'm going to put the link here, and also I'm going to leave it in the comments. It starts in September 17, and there are only 10 spots, so it's very small, very, one-on-one. And here we go. And I know that some journalists will probably join, or some content creators, or, there are a lot of content creators who are just tired of the surface stuff and they want to tell the real stories that are happening in their backyards. And we all need those stories. You know what I mean? So, so that's that. And I want to thank you all for being here. It really means a lot that you tuned in on a Sunday morning to join me. And I think I'll do this once a month. How about that? Yeah. Let me just paste the tourism lens. Here we go. I'm going to paste the link here for others in case, or for you guys if you're interested. And as I said, let me know what more you'd like to see. And thank you for all your suggestions today. It's been really great having you all here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to growing together and to talking honestly about moving abroad, traveling abroad, visiting places, and integrating and embracing cultural immersion and being part of a larger community, because that is what we are, right? So thanks for being here. And I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday, whether you are in Barcelona or in South Carolina or around the world. It's really wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye. Bye, Loretta. Bye, Tech Janitor. Bye, Linda. Bye, Ripley. Take care.